Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I would argue a real Republican. We're going to be watching Andrew Wilson debating a lesbian, and it gets spicy. So let's go ahead and bring it in. Let's see what the intros are. Let's get cracking.
Our podcast coming to you live from Santa Barbara, California. I'm your host, Brian Atlas. A few quick announcements before the show begins. This podcast is viewer supported, so please consider donating through Streamlabs. That's streamlabs.com/whatever. TTS is $200 and up. There will be no instant TTS. TTS will come in batches at various breaks throughout the debate. You can see the description for all triggers and full details. Without further ado, I'm joined today by Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible. He is a blood sports debater and political commentator. Also joining us today is Charlie. She received a master's degree in fantasy literature from the University of Glasgow and a BA in English from California State University, Sacramento. She's a political, social commentator and content creator. The topic today is feminism. I want a good, clean debate, no interrupting. I need very good discipline on this. I will allow for some slight interrupting, as is normal in conversation, but excessive or repeated interrupting will first result in a verbal warning, excuse me, followed by a yellow card, which mute.
Oh my God, I don't care about that. Just mute him if you need to. All right.
Be necessary. There are no opening statements, straight to open convo. Let's get it on.
Cool. Okay. I think first we ought to agree on some definitions. So feminism, the prompt was, is feminism good for society? The definition I have here is from the Oxford English Dictionary. Feminism, advocacy of equality of the sexes and the establishment of the political, social, and economic rights of the female sex. Are we in agreement on that?
No.
Okay. What's your definition of feminism?
Feminism is the movement towards egalitarian systems and the deconstruction and removal of the patriarchy.
Okay.
So it's my belief that feminism cannot operate without an oppressor-oppressed class worldview. And if there's...
Oh God, that's where Cooley got it. God, Cooley just straight up apes Andrew Wilson shit all the time, doesn't he?
It's an oppressor class. That oppressor class has to be the patriarchy, because who else could it be?
I think that that's fair, but I do want to, stipulate that, like, I think that men are also, they also benefit from feminism, and
Yeah,
they're
I
also
understand.
oppressed under patriarchy. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I understand. So
Okay.
your definition would include... You don't disagree with my definition. You're just clarifying a position on top of it, which is that you think there is a patriarchy.
Mhm.
It's just that it's also oppressive or beneficial to men as well. Or I'm sorry, oppressive to men as well.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So can we largely agree then that feminism is an egalitarian movement which focuses on...
And by the way, I get that definitions are boring, but I don't want to fast forward because apparently, like, he has a proprietary definition for Christian nationalism, and that's actually why he didn't want to debate me on Christian nationalism a few months ago. We are setting up a debate for Christian nationalism in the next month, as a matter of fact. I think we're scheduling down a date. But the reason why I just want to go through the definitions is because if they're fighting about definitions for 30 minutes, I want to know what their actual proprietary definitions are.
Equity, egalitarianism, and the removal of patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I think we got the definition down there pretty well.
Oh, okay. And then society, I mean, I think this one is pretty obvious, but society, this is from Merriam-Webster, a community, nation, or broad grouping of people having common traditions, institutions, and collective activities and interests. When I say society, what I'm going to be referring to mainly is the United States. I'm going to refer to my country, my nation.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have any issues with that definition.
Ooh, all right. And then I guess, gosh, I really don't want to get into another meta-ethics debate. But
About the word good.
what is good? Yes, what makes something good?
So when we're talking about good here, why don't we just stick with outcomes which are preferable to most people?
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Nice. Like, listen, I'm sure that this is going to derail and get terrible very soon, but holy shit. Like, dude, the other day we had like a moral nihilist argument with like half a dozen people in chat who were like, well, what's really good anyways? You know, the good is, the good is arbitrary. Good is subjective. Who gives a shit? And like, Andrew Wilson and leftist Charlie are being more reasonable about the definition of good than half a dozen people in my own chat yesterday.
So outcomes which are preferable to most people for the good. So I understand that you and I have different viewpoints on what good is, but in like the good faith of not trying to bog the conversation down into 3 hours of meta-ethical jumping up and down, I'm fine with that too.
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I think we have our definitions down pretty well.
Cool. Okay.
So I'll let you open with whatever you want to say.
All right. So I guess we didn't technically have opening statements, so I suppose I will ramble. Feminism is good for society because a society that allows people the freedom to choose the life that they wish is a happier society. I believe that hierarchies divide and weaken us.
Okay. So the crux of your argument for feminism is that it's good because it allows for more choice.
Yes.
Is that the crux? Am I getting that right?
I would say so.
Okay. I don't want to straw man it. So if you want to think about it for a second and make sure.
He's like, I have a whole argument tree on this one topic. So if you want to think about it for a second, think about it. Oh no. Am I going to end up agreeing with Andrew Wilson? Fuck.
That's what you mean by it, or if there's any addendums that you want to give to it.
I think freedom of choice and egalitarianism.
Freedom of choice and egalitarianism. Okay. All right. Choice.
And by the way, I just want you guys to know, okay, this is actually a kind of an interesting thing in reference to how far we've come just in a generation. All right. I want to make this comment. All right. In the 1960s, women could get into academia, but it was like frowned upon. And it was like very normal for like academic circles and very normal for like the upper echelons of society to say, oh, that's not a woman's job. You know, okay, like a woman can do math. Like there's females who are working for NASA. There's female engineers. There's like exceptions to the rule. But realistically, like the upper echelons of society are for men because men should be working and men should be making money and men should be providing for women. And women should basically be, you know, in the kitchen, getting pregnant, having kids, raising kids, managing a family, et cetera, et cetera. And also homosexuality wasn't accepted. So leftist Charlie or whatever her name is, she would have been probably bullied socially and culturally into finding a man that she could tolerate and having a relationship with that man and then having kids. Now, arguably from like a genetic succession kind of argumentation, okay, you have kids like that, that's good. But from an individualist like freedom lens, if she was living a life of daily suffering where she didn't enjoy having kids, she didn't enjoy running a household, she didn't like or love her husband, she wanted to be more ambitious, she wanted to pursue a career, she wanted to do this, she wanted to do that. Look at that in the 1960s context where that would be her life versus look at what modern society has afforded her, which is the capacity to go to higher level academia without judgment, get an interesting degree, actually getting like a master's in fantasy literature. While that's probably the most useless degree I've ever heard of, it's a cool degree. If I could get a master's in fantasy literature, I would. I'm just not going to spend $100,000 to get an education in fantasy literature. And then finally, what I would say is that, you know, she's free to make her own choices. So if she is homosexual, she's attracted to girls, she wants to date women, et cetera, then she can pursue that and probably have a more like fulfilled life in reference to that. And so for me, I'm just trying to say like the amount of difference between the life that a person like her would have lived in the 1960s versus the life that she can live now in the 2020s, it is light years ahead of where it was.
Egalitarianism. Now, Charlie, were you an advocate of the C-19 lockdowns?
COVID-19 lockdowns?
Where is this going?
Yes, I would say so, but my stepfather is diabetic, so I had a personal stake in it because I did not want him to, you know, as a diabetic, he was more at risk.
Can you tell me how that helped with freedom of choice?
How that helped with freedom of
The lock-
choice.
Oh, come on. This sucks. Beef Supreme was right. I'll start a drawing.
Lockdowns, because the lockdowns seem to me, so I kind of give you my take. When I think of like a fascist dystopia, I think about things like checkpoints, state mandated garments, state removing media, independent media, in order to have state messaging. I think of those types of things. And those were all the things that I saw during the lockdowns from the side of the leftist progressive and the feminist side. And they all seem to be in pretty good unison there. And it seems like all that did was limit choice. Your worldview, where at the same time you love feminism because it expands choice, but at the same time supported lockdowns, which definitely limited them.
I think that if we are going to, consider something being good on the basis of creating the most amount of good possible, I think that
You mean the most amount of best outcomes possible?
yes, but
Okay.
yes,
Most amount of best
best
outcomes.
possible outcomes. I
Okay.
do believe that for
Synonyms, by the way.
a specific period of time, it was necessary to have everyone, including government officials, do their best to not spread COVID-19 until we could mitigate the dangers.
Okay.
I think that in some cases, I understand that many people grew very frustrated very quickly after some time. But I do think that in cases of emergency, when
That's
it
fine.
comes down to freedom of choice, we should have freedom of choice, unless you are making decisions that would inhibit the freedom of choice that others have.
Okay.
Isn't that a paradox?
No.
So,
So isn't this kind of the idea of the paradox of tolerance? We should tolerate everything except intolerance. Everyone
No.
has the freedom of choice except to inflict, some type of damage on other people's choices. It's kind of
No.
paradoxical. So in other words, I guess the thing that's interesting about this view is that you're telling me that limiting choice is necessary for good outcomes.
I
Okay.
think in very, very, very extreme circumstances, such as a plague.
Well, that's not a plague, right? It's just a virus.
It's a virus,
Yeah.
but I mean, a lot of people were dying.
Very few people total were dying, right?
Well, it was
I'm going to finish my drawing, but this is already obnoxious. And the reason why this is obnoxious, let me tell you what I'm drawing. So what Charlie said, which, good for her for flipping the conversation to the point that I'm agreeing with her almost instantaneously, where I thought that maybe I would agree with Andrew momentarily, is that she's saying that in general, freedom of choice is good. Okay. And if you will consult the right-hand side of your screen, there is a man and there is a woman, and there are choices. There are paths that they can go on. You could analogize this to family dynamics, relationship dynamics, career choices, the food you eat, whatever. Choice is typically, something that we deeply value in a free society, is the freedom to choose. And of course, freedom means not only the freedom to do good things, but also the freedom to do bad things. And so we have legal pressure and we have cultural pressure. So what Charlie is saying is that people maximally should be free to choose. Women previously did not have the same capacity to be free to choose as men, and therefore they have more choices now, and that is a good thing. Most people will maximally believe that it is beneficial to women to have a good amount of choices. Now, what Andrew Wilson said, which I think is almost definitionally obfuscation and definitionally argumentatively silly, in my opinion, is the fact that during a pandemic, some choices were removed, like the ability to, travel without a mask, the COVID passports, lockdowns, all that bullshit. And what Charlie said, I think quite astutely, is that if your choices result in the death or injury of somebody else, it's not a contradiction to say that humans should have the maximal amount of choices as long as it doesn't hurt or kill other people. There's no contradiction there. And to pretend that there's some kind of fucking paradox or there's some kind of contradiction there, it's not true at all. We all agree that like laws to some degree are necessary, that social mores, that social cultural traditions are necessary to some degree. And so these things aren't analogous. Also with him saying like, oh, it wasn't a plague, it was a virus. I think these things are synonyms. I think he's being a pedant. And then not just that. Oh, not that many people died. 1.1 million people died in the US as a result of COVID, or we had that many excess deaths between 2021 and 2022. Okay. We launched a multi-trillion-dollar war called the Global War on Terror that cost $8 trillion, cost tens of thousands of American lives, and probably killed a few 100,000 Afghans and a few 100,000 Iraqis through civil war. That's what we were willing to do for $2 billion worth of property damage. I don't know if that dollar amount is accurate, and 3,000 American dead. So what should we be willing to do if we have 1.1 million American dead? So again, like obfuscation, I think, is where you use vague words in order to conceal a point. And I feel like freedom of choice versus danger. I feel like Andrew is obfuscating here. I think he's using vague terminology in order to make an argument that's actually not analogous at all.
Pretty freaky.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly like fat people.
Rob with a W says, Connor, if you're agreeing with Andrew Wilson, I'm getting a potato peeler and some flights to Florida. Well, listen, Charlie brought it back, okay? Charlie brought it back. Big fan of Charlie, all right?
Really old people who were dying.
I think that even fat people and old people, I would prefer them to not die from viruses if possible.
So how much freedom of mind can you take in order to make sure that that fatty gets to live? How much of my
Fatty? So sorry. The whole reason why we're watching this is later on, leftist Charlie says, hey, doesn't your wife have 2 other baby daddies? Didn't your wife have 2 other men that she married prior to marrying you? You're acting like this like tradcon conservative douchebag, and yet you're raising 2 children by 2 other people. She says, hey, during the COVID-19 lockdowns, I had a family member who had diabetes. And as a result, I think some of the lockdowns were necessary in order to save human life. And Andrew Wilson out the gate is like, yeah, how much of my freedom can you impugn on to save your fat family member? All right, sorry, right there. She had, in my opinion, if he's going to throw elbows like that, she has the right to throw elbows.
freedom do you get to take to do that? How much of my freedom to walk into a store without wearing my government-sponsored, mandated garment around my face that marks me as acceptable? Does that sound like freedom to you? Or does that sound like some other kind of ism that you guys would normally call it?
I think that if there is an insane infectious disease that, doctors and scientists and professionals don't necessarily understand at the time raging around, I would say that you possibly infecting those around you and putting their lives at risk is, I do think, a time in which, freedom of choice should unfortunately be limited. For instance, it's like, like when someone is checked for weapons, like that is technically removing a freedom of choice if we don't allow someone to enter a building with weapons. But it's good because if they have weapons, they could use it to permanently eliminate someone's freedom of choice.
Yeah, but I guess this is what's interesting to me is that this is your view. Your view.
There's no paradox here. He's actually just describing like liberal society. And he's trying to take a maximalist position for choice and then pretend that every lefty or liberal or every libertarian thinks that like choice maximization within reason, obviously. And then within reason, we're going to disagree on what within reason means. There's no contradiction here.
is that feminism is good because it expands choice, right? And then in the same breath, you say the COVID-19 lockdowns are good because they limit choice. And so it just seems like limiting choice.
Money is more important than boomers, Connor. True. Evan says, bro, 1.1 million people died, let alone excess deaths caused by the hospitals being overrun. Like the number of people who died because of the broad impact of COVID is closer to 2 million. Bro, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like the right wing does not have a consistent narrative. The right wing, the narrative simultaneously is COVID-19 was a bioweapon produced by China and Fauci in order to be boomer remover, in order to knock out old people so they didn't have to spend money on their entitlements. And we should hold the grievous economic damage done by COVID-19 and the lockdowns. We should hold China accountable for that cost. But simultaneously, COVID was a cough, and 99.7% people, which is, I think, an accurate statistic, 99.7% of people survived. So as a result, COVID is not a big deal. But what they're not acknowledging is the mass vaccination program. What they're not acknowledging is that 99.7 survival rate was with the lockdowns. And what they're not acknowledging is that 99.7 still means that 1.1 million people get wiped out by a disease. So once again, there's like no consistency. There's no sense of scale. There's no sense of numbers. There's no sense. Like, think about that. Madison Square Garden, I think, holds 50,000 people. Okay. I want you to think about that real quick. Think about like Madison Square Garden. If somebody blew up Madison Square Garden, you'd be like, oh my God, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard of. Well, now take Madison Square Garden and multiply it by, I think, 20. Because 10 would be 500,000, so 20 would be 1 million, right? Take 20 Madison Square Gardens and have those people asphyxiate to death. If you put that in your mind's eye, then obviously you're going to be like, holy shit, that's terrible. We need to stop that. We need to stop that. However, we can stop that. But because it's like pushed to the fringes, and because it's quote unquote fatties who are dying from asphyxiation, it's also grandmas. It's also grandpas. It's also people with type 1 diabetes. It's also people with immunodeficiencies. It's also people who have illnesses that they had no control over whatsoever. And it's also able-bodied people who just didn't interact with the virus properly and got taken out. I have a family member like that. I have a family member who was on a respirator for 6 months. And the only reason why they were on a respirator for 6 months was because they were young. If they were older, they would have pulled the plug. So yeah, sorry, the right-wing perspective on COVID is incoherent.
To you is fine as long as it proves or provides for good outcomes.
Well,
as long as there's good outcomes, we can limit choice.
My rebuttal to that would be the COVID lockdowns were temporary emergency measures. When I talk about feminism giving people freedom of choice, there was a time in this country where women's career options were limited, had limited rights and freedoms, and now they do not. So
why would that matter if the outcomes were better? Because what you're saying to me, what you just got done saying to me is that
I'm going to lift weights because otherwise I'm going to have a stroke.
You're fine with limiting choice as long as it's for the greater good and the outcomes.
Beef Supreme. Okay, hold on. I have to address this. So we will all be dumber at the end of Connor's stream today, since for some reason he made us watch this fucking moron. Brother man, the content is I find psychic damage. Then I react to the psychic damage and I respond to it by giving actual steelmans and actual like mind map ideas to the brain damage that brings out the value in the conversation. That's the content. If you were coming here to get smarter or to be at peace or to be more wholesome, then you need to go watch PBS, bro. Go watch Daniel Tiger. All right. Daniel Tiger, he'll teach you how to color. He'll teach you how to draw. He'll teach you about friendship. He'll teach you about, how to be a good community member. Daniel Tiger, what you're asking me to do is to watch episodes of Daniel Tiger without commentary. That's what you're asking me to do content-wise. But if we start watching Daniel Tiger without commentary, our viewership is going to drop by 80%. I'm not going to get any super chats and I'm going to have to quit my job. Okay. So if you want to go watch Daniel Tiger, go watch Daniel Tiger. But my channel is not going to be Daniel Tiger. It's going to be finding the dumbest, most inflammatory, biggest pieces of shit on the internet, watching them say wildly stupid shit, mocking them and criticizing them, and then drawing complex mind maps in order to illustrate highfalutin ideas. That's the content. Sorry.
From your view, are better. The outcomes.
Temporarily.
Well,
Well,
if that virus,
limiting of freedom of choice.
So what if that virus had been here for 50 years? Would you have still supported lockdowns if the state officials and experts came out and said that that was still the best way to mitigate the spread of this virus?
Depends on the death rate, Andrew. If we had Ebola that was as infectious as COVID, then yeah, obviously we would still need to do draconian measures in order to make sure the entirety of the species wasn't wiped out. Obviously.
I think after 50 years with all of the technology that we have, if they had not managed to get...
But if they did, would you have supported their mandate for new normal?
No, that's ridiculous.
Why?
Like, it's 50 years. That's a lifetime of limited freedom.
But a year and a half where people can't see their loved ones die. They can't even go to the hospital to see them. And when they can't have any contact with them whatsoever, right? They can't even touch them. People couldn't get medical care for years. They were dying of diabetes and other horrible things because of these lockdowns. You were fine with those things as long as you thought that the greater good was served as far as outcomes go.
Yes.
My great-grandmother passed during the COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020, and my family was able to go see her as she was dying.
That's nice for your family,
yeah.
But you know that there's many families who are not, depending on the states they were in, or they would have a contact order where only one person could go in.
That's how they did it. It was one person at a time, which is frankly not ideal, but I think
it's not only not ideal, but you couldn't touch them. They had plastic between you and the person often. Yeah. Depending on the state you were in, they would wall you off with plastic so that you couldn't touch them because of the threat of the contact of the virus. And so the thing is like, that doesn't sound like this freedom of choice society that was designed to assist people. And if you say, well, it's just a temporary measure, we'll just limit your choices temporarily. We don't know what temporarily is.
Somebody said, no Bluey reference? Bluey is really good.
That lasted almost 2 years. Like
it was a year and a half, so that was fairly temporary.
That's not that temporary, and the amount of damage that it did was incredible.
Why are we using terms that aren't accurate? In the span of a lifetime for a deadly pandemic disease that wiped out 1.1 million people, a year and a half is absolutely temporary.
And if another one comes, you'll do it again. And if another one came, you do it again. And if another one came, you do it again.
Given the unpopularity of the lockdowns and the politicization of the lockdowns, I don't think politicians would want to force.
Beef Supreme says, I know I'm still here and I'm just talking shit about him. But bro, that's what I'm saying. You have to understand this too, Beef Supreme. I need to explain this, okay? You talking shit is good for the channel. It's good for the channel. You getting pissed off and being like, fuck you, Connor, fuck Andrew Wilson, leftist Charlie is making dog shit arguments. That's good for the channel too. Why do you think I say, like the stream, share it with friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them? The reason why I say that is because when you engage in chat and you like the stream, that boosts us in the algo. And so pissing you off to some degree is good for me. Now, I want it to be a voluntary relationship. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you psychically without your consent, but I want you to sign up for the psychic damage. Okay.
Another lockdown. I also think that.
But you support them though, whether the politician does or not. You support them for the greater good. The idea is it serves the greater good to you, and I guess that's my position too. See, I think that limiting choice can serve the greater good, just like you do.
Yeah, Andrew Wilson's the motherfucker who's trying to hide the zombie bite. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, nah, I'm built different. The zombie virus isn't going to infect me. And then he goes into the safe house with a zombie bite.
I think that limiting choice in many instances serves the greater good. And I think that limiting choice for a lot of people, like I think that limiting women's choices to have abortions, I think that that's good. I think that provides better outcomes for society. I think that limiting women's ability to vote men into wars.
Here we go. Here we go.
I think that that's good for society. Like, I think the same thing you think. If we're going with good as outcomes, I think that limiting choice is sometimes necessary for the greater good, just like you do.
So I want to address what you said about war. I assume you're referring to the draft.
No,
Vote men into wars. What do you mean?
that's only one aspect. Well, I'll explain.
Okay.
Do you agree with me that no matter what the circumstances are, it's almost exclusively going to be men who engage in all frontline combat operations in basically any nation on planet Earth?
I think that has historically almost always been the case, with some exceptions. But in this day and age, I do think that boots on the ground is significantly less common.
Like in the Ukraine?
Well, Ukraine's a different beast. We're talking about America. And Ukraine also had women. The women volunteered to fight for Ukraine.
They're not in frontline combat roles. In fact, they were allowed to leave, and the men weren't allowed to leave. The men had to stay, and they were drafted right off the street.
That's terrible. I don't think anyone should be forced to go to war. However, it's also a specific age range of men. I think that when we're talking about war,
it's up to 60. They're drafting them up to 60 years old.
Gnarly.
But it's common. That's common in a real war. We just haven't seen one in a long time.
Of course. But when I think about war, I don't think about women voting.
Do you mind if we look that up? Can you look up the max draft age for Ukraine, Brian?
See, and now we're getting into the nitty gritty of the details of Ukraine, but we're not sticking with the principle. The principle is and by the way, from an argumentative flow, Beef Supreme was like, oh, and you said this motherfucker's intelligent. You said this guy's intelligent. This guy sucks. This guy sucks. But what's interesting is that there's no contradiction here, which is that, Charlie is arguing that the maximal amount of choices between the genders or the sexes is good. And to some degree, I agree. But then what Andrew Wilson is saying is, oh, okay, well, in this exception, which I think was a stupid exception, but that's okay. During a deadly pandemic disease, you're saying that this risk to another person means that you are prohibited from a certain course of action. Well, I agree with you. There are certain courses of action that I think are so dangerous that I want to curtail feminism and I want to reinstantiate, or I want to reinforce patriarchy. That's basically Andrew Wilson's argument. And then the reason why he's bringing this up, and I think the reason why this is such red meat for his audience, is the fact that men do carry disproportionate risk in society. We commit suicide more. We have more deaths of despair. We are more often than not the primary caretakers of both ourselves and family when it comes to finances. We don't take on the domestic burden, but primarily we are looked to for the financial security of ourselves and the people immediately around us. And then also we enlist in the draft in the military. And then if there is a shooting war, then 90 to 95% of the people who are on the front lines are going to be male. So with that disproportionate burden comes disproportionate risk. Now, I'm a little patriarchal, but the way that I'm saying patriarchy is, yeah, that's the job. That's the job. The job of a male or the job of a man is to disproportionately, not always, but it's disproportionately to be a financial provider, disproportionately be on the front lines, disproportionately take lethal risk, disproportionately be injured or commit suicide or die from a disease of despair. That's the job of being a man. That's why I was born. I was born to fulfill that social role. And what I find frustrating about Andrew's perspective is that he's like, isn't that unfair? Isn't that unfair to my single men who are at home, to my single guys at home? Isn't it unfair that women can vote, but you have to go fight in a war? And then guys at home who have never enlisted, never been officers, never been enlisted, or they were enlisted and they were officers, but they got a raw deal when they came home. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe their wife took everything. Maybe their wife cheated on them and divorced them and they lost custody of the kids. Maybe they're dying of a disease of despair. Maybe they're an alcoholic or a drug addict. They go, yeah, Yeah, that is unfair. You know what would be better is if women couldn't vote. And it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Like, how about you get your shit together? How about you stop boozing? How about you stop smoking? How about you work out? How about you take care of yourself? How about instead of being like, oh, it's unfair that I'm the financial provider for my family, how about you figure it the fuck out? How about you take all of that energy of like despair and anxiety and rage and you turn it into productive shit? Because that's what men have done throughout history. Men looked at problems. They were like, damn, that kind of sucks. And then they worked their asses off in order to fix it. So people use the term toxic masculinity. I kind of view Andrew Wilson's resentment of modern society as toxic because it takes the responsibility away from the individual and then it externalizes it into the society where men cannot be their true selves until they dispossess other people of their rights, their choices, their privileges. I think it's bitch made. And then of course, I do find it ironic that the people who are the most vocal, passionate advocates for, oh, isn't it unfair that men die in security service? Almost none of them have served in security service. Like Cooley hasn't, Andrew Wilson hasn't, Andrew Tate hasn't. Andrew Tate got knocked out in a parking lot the other day, by the way. That was fucking glorious. Yeah, none of these motherfuckers have ever done the things that they're complaining about.
Yeah, Mary, can you look that up?
I believe that it was up to 60 or even higher.
Well, that's horrible. I myself am very anti-war and I'm very anti-draft. I don't think that anyone should be forced to lay down their life.
But don't you agree with me, though, that it will be the case that if there is warfare in a nation, that it is going to be men who are going to be almost exclusively doing all of the heavy lifting for all frontline combat?
Sure, but how does limiting the right to vote fix that? And then what he's going to say is he's going to say, oh, well, women disproportionately vote for wars that they themselves are not going to participate in. Okay, sometimes wars are necessary.
Have the answer if you'd like. So there's a bit of detail on it, but hide that, Mary. The maximum draft age for men in Ukraine is 25, though this age was 27 before April 2024. However, after completing their initial service, men become part of the reserve and can be recalled for mobilization until they reach 55 or 60 for officers.
Yeah, that's also a system that we have in the U.S.
Yes.
My stepfather was Air Force Reserves
Sure.
until he got older.
Sure. And if they need to, they'll raise the age more.
But there's also women who are, in the reserves in the U.S.
See, I wouldn't even, if I was Charlie, I wouldn't even engage with this line of argumentation. I'd be like, yeah, there's disproportionate burdens on different genders. And then what I would actually do if I was arguing this thing is I would bring it back to women. I would bring it back to women. I'd be like, hey, aren't women responsible for birthing the next generation? Aren't women responsible for using their bodies disproportionately? Disproportionately, because we're not talking about exclusively, disproportionately, isn't it women who have to get pregnant, go through the physiological and hormonal changes of having a child, have their hips bent in order to shoot a child out of their vagina, and then don't they disproportionately deal with the side effects of having gone through the process of pregnancy? And then aren't they disproportionately responsible for rearing children? And I understand like what could happen is if you're not paying attention to your wife or your partner once they have kids, maybe you'll be like, oh, are you really comparing pregnancy to being in a war? Yeah, I am. I'm gonna look into your eyeballs real quick. I served 8 years in the security service. Okay. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. I almost cut off my pinky. This part right here is right there. My neck is backed up. My hips are messed up. My legs are messed up. My shoulders messed up. So many parts of my body are messed up. Okay. I served in law enforcement. I saw people get injured and killed in horrible, grievous ways routinely. And then also carrying a gun on my hip made my hips worse than they were from the military. Okay. I have suffered in order to do a tenth of my life. Let's say I live to 100. Let's say I live to 80. 10% of my life will have been in security service. Okay. I have never grown a human being inside my stomach and then expelled 10 pounds worth of blood and bodily fluid out of my butthole. I have not done that. I will never do that. Women who have children have done that. And that is hardcore. That is mad hardcore, to grow a human being inside your body and then to shoot 10 pounds worth of crap out of your butthole. It's hardcore. And yet no male will ever have to experience that. So if I was leftist Charlie, that's exactly where my argumentation would go. We got 100 people watching. Like the stream. It is free. Share it with your friends if you have a good time. Engage with chat. There's lots of funny, interesting, cool people inside my chat. I think we have one of the best chats in Twitch and YouTube politics. They're all 3,000 IQ, Giga Chats, and Giga Stacy's. Super chats if you got them. I do see a super chat coming through. I promise I'll get to it. Memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, but they're not. The problem is with the idea of recall, even if you recall women from the reserves at 55 years old.
I don't care about this. I would move on to the pregnancy thing. Men voted into war. Enemy demoralization. Women in the military. Muscular warfare. That sounds gay. Let's do that. Let's do muscular warfare.
Dudes charging at each other with guns, and that's not really how it works.
What do you think war looks like right now, Charlie?
It's drone warfare at the moment. We don't really do boots on the ground anymore.
Is there a lot of drone warfare going on in Russia and Ukraine?
It's also guerrilla warfare.
Hell yeah, there is.
He has a lot of Russia.
I'm actually not super familiar with Russia and Ukraine, but I know there's a lot of tanks, and they're blowing people up.
They've mostly been focusing on drone combat. I'm going to tell you something really interesting that happened.
Okay.
So the Russians brought back the Dragoon, the actual Dragoon, and instead of using a horse, they use a motorcycle instead to outpace drones, and they mount AK-47 machine guns to the front of their motorcycles, and they fly past the enemy and they mow them down.
A woman couldn't do that?
No, she couldn't.
A woman
for the most part,
ride a motorcycle and shoot.
No, I don't think she could.
I mean, that's tight. That's cool. But the reason why I skipped 10 minutes is because they're not going to address what I said, which is basically like, is gun capacity equal? Testosterone for war, military crime rates, power in government. I'm going to skip the war shit, dude, because frankly, I'm not going to listen to people who are less educated than me talk about whether it's just true. Okay, what Andrew said is just true. 90 to 95%, maybe even as high as 98% in some cases, of people who are going to be killed in war are going to be males. They're going to be people on the front line. It's going to be disproportionately males. Even if you put females on the front line, it's still, just because of an instinctive desire to protect women, 90 to 98% of combat casualties are going to be male. It's just true. So if you want to bring up a societal equivalent of a singular thing that is not capable of being done by the opposite gender or sex, it's pregnancy. So yeah, men will never have to deal with pregnancy and pregnancy is fucking hardcore. So tough titties. We have disproportionate, or we have differentiating roles and responsibilities. Who gives a fuck? AKA Batusai says Connor, not to derail too much. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't even watching the thing, but all I did was talk shit and then skip it. Not to derail too much, but the problem with the COVID response was how dishonest the experts in medical industry was. No one would have blew up about the response if everything was honest. Well, I don't even think they knew what the fuck was going on. Like, I'm sure Fauci lied. Like, so for instance, people are like, Fauci initially said that masks and all that bullshit wouldn't be effective. And they told that to the American people so they wouldn't buy masks. But what they were actually trying to do was manipulate the population into not panic buying medical equipment because they needed to be prioritized for medical first responders. And then they reversed course and said, actually, masks are good and everybody should wear a mask. I don't know. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm assuming there's some level of dishonesty. I'm assuming there's some level of the fog of war. I'm assuming there's some level of confusion. And as somebody who's been in, let's call it critical incidents, you don't always have perfect response during critical incidents. So my, oh, you look good. Bubba? Bubba? No. I saw the email, but you think Bubba is Bill Clinton? I want to see the picture. I don't want to see the picture, but I would want to see the picture before I accused it. Yeah, I would want to see the picture before I accused him of anything. Wait. All right. I'll tell my chat.
You should.
I will.
Hard-hitting news. Literally.
Okay. So my wife walked in. So obviously, for those of you who are watching this as a VOD, what's happened is they've declassified and released 20,000 emails and text messages from Jeffrey Epstein in the past 48 hours. And one of the more interesting ones that I want to see corroborated before I start using it as a meme is that Jeffrey Epstein's brother is either texting him or emailing him. And he's asking him hey, does Putin have that picture of Donald Trump blowing Bubba? And I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know if that's an inside joke. I don't know anything. All right. I have no context. I don't know if it's real. I never would have figured Donald Trump for being the guy who would fillet another guy, but the 80s were crazy. Who knows? And so my wife is walking in and she's like, well, Bubba is a nickname for President Bill Clinton. So maybe there's a picture floating out there of Donald Trump blowing Bill Clinton. That would be hysterical if there was some orgy and Donald Trump was high out of his mind and blew Bill Clinton and the Russians had a picture of Donald Trump blowing Bill Clinton. Anyways, let's let the content flow. I'm getting distracted.
Do the men in Ukraine feel about it? Because I do think that there are often men with very, strong ideas about chivalry who would say, that's my duty.
Sure. Totally agree.
To carry on our country.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree.
Women need to go. Because that's
Yeah, Doobie says, I don't think man up and accept the fact that women have all the rights with half the responsibility is going to win people over, to be honest. Yeah, it probably won't, but it's still my perspective. What I would also say, I don't think man up and that women have all your rights with half the responsibility is going to win people over. But I would argue that women have half the responsibility in having and raising kids, and that therefore they should be granted approximately equal rights.
very much.
Well, what would that have to do with the justice of it all or the injustice of it all?
Well, there's no justice in that. That's not.
Yeah, it's not just. And so the thing is
But also,
that when I for the
allowing
practical.
Okay, if we're going to propagate as a species, Doobie, you have been so contrarian recently. Nah, women are allowed to get abortions if they don't want no input from the father. If they choose to keep the child the father didn't want to be financially responsible. Okay, don't have sex. Don't have sex and you don't have to worry about it. Go MGTOW. Destroy the species. What I'm saying, okay, but here's Doobie, I need you to hear me when I say this. I don't think that you can legally compel a woman to have a child. Okay, I just don't think you can. I don't think we're there culturally. I don't think we're there socially. However, I think culturally, the pressure on women to be like, oh, when are you going to get married? When are you going to find your husband? When are you going to have a kid? I understand there's women in my audience and they might resent that pressure. I think that pressure is not only acceptable, it's borderline pro-social, where saying hey, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids? Because the truth is, we would all, like Jonah Zilla said, as an alpha male, it's my right to smoke weed, chill in my house all day, goon, and play video games. It's technically true. However, I think that there should be social pressure on young men to not just smoke weed, goon, play video games, and chill in their house. The same way there should be social pressure for women to find their partner, have children, be in a stable relationship.
These sorts of votes to pass. Is it a woman in power that is making these things?
Oh, I caught Anonymous. Anonymous for $20. Andrew wants all the benefits of stoicism, but none of the responsibilities. Being a man sucks. Being a woman sucks. Grow up and learn to be an adult. At least men don't have to deal with periods or get pregnant. Dude, seriously. And for all the men who are naysaying like Doobie, I'm going to give you an option right now. You can be, you're dead. Okay. You're going to reincarnate. You have two options. You can be reborn as a male in, let's say, 2001. All right. You can be reborn as a male in 2001. You'll still be subject to the draft. There'll still be the war on terror. Maybe we invade Venezuela, all that bullshit, right? All the bullshit that comes with being male. There's disproportionate drug use. Most people are gooners. It's difficult to find a relationship. It's difficult to get a house. Or you can be a girl, all right? And with a girl, you'll have all the privileges of modern society, but you also can get periods and you can get pregnant. Which one are you picking? Now, I'm just going to tell you from my perspective, and maybe this is chauvinistic or patriarchal or whatever, I'm going to be a dude every single time. I like being a dude. Being a dude is dope.
Things happen?
Well, in a democracy, yes. Aren't all women in power?
Never say never.
Yeah.
No.
No, you don't have the power to vote?
Oh, I can vote, but the people who are deciding what I can
Then
vote
you have
on-
equal power to men.
Certainly, yes, the men of my status, but, not the lawmakers, not the politicians.
You're in charge of the politicians that get put into office.
Hardly. I think that's a...
You and the collection of voters, yes. And you vote for collective interests, just like we vote for collective interests.
We try to, but do you think that American politicians and lawmakers...
What's up? Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. My wife came back and she said, Trump beat Hillary, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, that means that Donald Trump likely fucked 2 Clintons during one election.
largely reflect the interests of the people?
Interestingly enough, I think now they do.
Wait, but okay, are you saying Donald Trump had physical sex with Hillary Clinton, or are you saying that he had metaphorical sex with Hillary Clinton because he fucked her out of the election? Okay. Yes, I understood that. I repeated that joke to the chat. Doobie says, no woman will ever experience the pain and desperation of accidentally catching your foreskin in your zipper. All right, now you're fucking with me.
I think that the truth is that when I talk to the average progressive, yeah, I think they do. I think that we're getting exactly what we paid for and what we vote for. So yeah, I do. I think that we have an immoral government because we have an immoral populace, and I think that that's always that generally tends to be the case. Now, not always, but I think generally, yeah, we have exactly the government we deserve, which is a bunch of incompetent fucking assholes who are out there to fuck us over, right?
That's very bleak. But I can't say I disagree with you there on that. However, my point is that we typically don't get a say oftentimes in what we vote on, what laws are passed. I mean, we can try our best, when the midterms come up. I don't know how democracy works in Ukraine. I am woefully uneducated on Ukraine and Russia. But again, I feel like you would want to turn to the politicians and lawmakers that are allowing these injustices to occur.
Well, I guess before we get to that, can we just start with agreeing that that's an unjust and non-equitable system?
Correct,
that women
yes.
can vote to send men to wars they don't have to fight.
I mean, I think being able to, it's not just women. It would also be old men. It would be disabled men.
Because there's still the potential, which exists.
Sen Patty says, my Trump Bill Clinton fan fiction is coming true. Okay, I do not care. I don't care about this. I don't care to hear Andrew Wilson's perspective on warfare, and I don't care to hear Charlie's claim to ignorance about it. It's just not interesting to me. I'm just going to make the same argument. So, Doobie, I understand that you're making the argument that there's no legalistic compulsion for women to have children, but shitloads of women choose to have children. Let's take a look at it. Do most women have children? No, most women do not have children, but the majority still do. What? That is a contradictory sentence. With the percentage declining in recent years, as of 2015 to 2019, 43% of women aged 15 to 49 in the U.S. had not had a child. Wow. This trend is marked by a decline in the birth rates. That's bad, man. Almost half of the population not having children at all is bad. That is bad. Ugh. They're waiting longer, but U.S. women today are more likely to have children than a decade ago. More than half of never married women in their early 40s have given birth. That's still really bad. That's still really bad. Throughout history, let's see if there's any historical data. Throughout history, did most women have children? Question mark. Yes, throughout most of history, most women had children, but the average number of children varied greatly. Pre-industrial and modern, the norm was for women to have many children. This was driven by a need for labor. American women had an average of 7 children. That's crazy. People be fucking. Okay, that's bad. I'm just gonna say it. That's bad. 40% of women being of maternal age, not having children. I would want to see the stats by 50, right? By age 50, let me see if this pops up. By age 50, how many women have had children? Approximately 85% of women have had children by age 50. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Dude, if almost 90% of women have children by age 50, 85%. No. I changed what I was saying. I changed what I was saying because the earlier stat was including 15-year-olds. I don't think 15-year-olds have any business having kids. But if by age 50, 85% of women have children. Dude, that means, and by the way, military service and security service is only 1% of the population, Doobie. So while you're saying that it's a legalistic compulsion for men to serve in the military, it might be a legalistic compulsion, but only 1% of the population does it, compared to 85% of women participate in childbirth. So in that way, women are disproportionately serving the species compared to males. Now, of course, like males work dangerous jobs and all that bullshit, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Don't bullshit a bullshitter. Although I'm not a bullshitter. Don't bullshit me.
However, I hold the view, and I want you to trust in me in the sense that you don't think that I would be very cool with like murdering babies. So when I say I think abortion,
it's your view, it's not a baby.
It's not a baby. It's not.
Right. McDevin says, Connor, I would recommend the Unwomanly Face of War. It's a collection of interviews with Soviet female soldiers, short, interesting, and depressing. Thanks, bud. Thanks for the recommendation. I'll probably check that out off stream. Quick shill. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I have no business asking for your support because you guys are excellent. But McDevin has given 3 $5 super chats, and Anonymous Chatter gave $20. And well, QC John, I do promise we will do the Demon Mama content. We just have to find the specific VOD first.
I understand. Yeah. You don't consider that to be a human life. Well, you consider scientifically, you consider it scientifically to be human life, but you don't consider life to begin until there's some sort of cognitive sentience or something like this, right?
Yeah, like a proto-consciousness. I still think that a fetus, before it has proto-consciousness, is still deserving of some moral consideration. I just don't view ending a non-conscious, non-sentient, non-sapient being as the same as ending the life of a being with proto-consciousness. I just don't. So for instance, like if you kill a chicken or a cow, I actually think that deserves greater moral consideration than killing a mollusk or a shellfish. I think that killing a shrimp is probably less morally grievous than killing a orangutan or a great ape, a gorilla or a chimpanzee or a bonobo. So while I think that there is some moral harm done in killing animals and consuming their flesh, which by the way, I do, that can be graded on a scale of like emotional and actual intelligence. And I do think that humans are at the peak of moral consideration because not only are they my species, but they also seem to be the dominant intellectual life form on planet Earth. But I think that eliminating a non-conscious, non-sapient, non-pain experience living thing is not this, or being, even if you want to use the word being, is not the same as killing a being with proto-consciousness or consciousness.
Something to that degree. I think it was it St. Augustine that said, when it starts to kick, that's when it's a person, something like that. I think that abortion and birth control, because women are, very much encumbered by our physical forms, our biological capacity to have children, I think that the only way we can have equality is to have access to birth control and abortion, so that we can participate in the economy the same way men can. So when men vote against women's interests and can force us to carry children and destroy our avenue to freedom, financial freedom, financial independence, it strikes me the same way as the draft does to you. Is I feel
Doobie says this is the longhouse mentality that pushes men to Andrew Tate. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Andrew Tate, who's offering them what? Get money, pimp out Instagram whores. Is that what Andrew Tate is offering? Sorry, bro. I'm not going to take the moral criticism of get your shit together, lift weights, get a job, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of community. Life's unfair, suck a dick, dipshit. That's the same spiel that men have been getting for 10,000 years. So yeah, sorry. If that drives you to the point that you're going to go try, number one, 99% of people who are driven to Andrew Tate are going to fail. Not 99% of the people who have gone towards the red pill grifters, they're going to fail. And when they fail, they're going to come back to my mentality. Not everybody is going to be capable of going to Romania and pimping out webcam girls and becoming an international sex trafficker to become a millionaire and buy a Bugatti. You know what I'm saying? So if you fall down that rabbit hole, I feel bad for you, but also grow the fuck up.
feel like that's
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Zenith has the right attitude. I do think that the solution to society is to make it better for men, not to take away from women. Agreed. Kay says, say a little prayer for me. I'm in an Uber with a sick child who I need to stop barfing for 12 minutes until we get home. In nome de Patria, de Filii, de Spiritus Sancti, everybody pray for Kay. I am praying that Kay, with a sick child who is returning from the hospital, not only does not barf in the Uber, that way she has to pay a cleanup fee. If he does barf in the back and you have to pay a cleanup fee, let me know. We'll do a fundraiser for your cleanup fee. But not only do I hope they don't barf on the way home, I hope that they recover quickly. Amen.
Here's something interesting, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start with this, because I think we should get our terms correct.
No, men are not interested in reversible vasectomies. Nice try, though.
Here.
Okay.
When you say force, right? Nobody actually forces you to have a child.
Hot girl or ugly girl? I'll give you a 6 out of 10 without makeup, who could be a 7 or 8 out of 10 with makeup. How about that? So slightly above average. Like if you wanted to marry a doctor or a lawyer, you could find like an ugly one and you could seduce them.
Child, even if you can't abort it. Isn't that actually the case?
Telling men to use condoms pushes them to Andrew Tate. Oh, my chat's wild. Oh, my chat's wild. See, that's why I say, like the stream, engage in chat. It's because my chat's wild. They say crazy shit. Sorry, I should pay attention to the debate. But honestly, man, like they spent 45 minutes. They spent 45 minutes on being a man sucks because of war. No, I have never served in war, nor have I enlisted, nor have I been an officer, nor have I been in first response. But men serving in war disproportionately sucks. And then what I moved it to the pregnancy argument, and Doobie was like, no, that's not analogous. Yeah, you're right. It's not analogous. 1% of men participate in security services, whereas 85% of women participate in pregnancy. And pregnancy is so physiologically hardcore that even as somebody who spent a decade of my life in security service, I have not done anything anywhere near as hardcore as shooting 10 pounds out of my body at one time. So yeah.
Nobody's actually forcing you to do that. The case is that you're using what's called an ambiguous equivocation, which is a fallacious form of argumentation. The
I think those are redundant terms.
equivocation is that you would have us believe through the nebulousness of the language of the term force that somebody is using some type of physical compellence to make you do a thing, when in fact the truth is
I think that's compulsion, bro. I think you're using big words that improperly.
that they're not doing that at all. You're just simply not allowed to do a thing. That's different than forcing you to do a thing.
I mean,
So like,
a law that says I cannot
There's a re-
drive in the left lane, or I cannot drive,
yeah.
I don't know, I can't go 100 miles per hour on the highway.
Yeah.
Yes, I can technically do it, but there will be consequences. Most likely me probably dying in a horrible accident.
Yeah, so
But
is
I
a red
will
light,
also-
do you think that a red light is force?
No, but there's consequences.
But it's not force.
I don't want to hear the force argument. It's some degree of force. Hold on, but it is about abortion. So I'll just I'll fast forward 2 clicks.
Imprisonment, if you do desertion, for instance, you can be shot, and they shot people for desertion all the time. People were shot for deserting their post.
Well, you're still not being forced to do it.
My search here just on this topic in the USA, desertion is a serious offense, and the penalty for desertion during a time of war can be death, though other punishments like imprisonment are possible.
Okay, what about draft dodging? And what happens if you refuse to sign up for the draft? You can't vote? Is that
You
essentially?
can't vote, you can't buy a gun. There's other penalties associated.
Once again, if she had brought up, pregnancy, I think she would be kicking ass and taking names. But right now, she's on the defense. $5 from McDevin. Thank you for the super chat, King. I bring up the book because there are a F load of non-combat roles that alone would justify drafting women. Logistical chains are important. Oh, for sure. That's a debate that I had with Cooley that we ended up just talking about, like, prison homosexuality for 45 minutes because I wasn't ready for him to go down his logic chain over and over and over again. So that was my fault for the Cooley debate being bad. But yeah, women can and should be a part of the military and can and should be a part of law enforcement. They should not be infantry, in my opinion. They shouldn't be special forces unless they're a augment that goes with special forces for searching females in a combat zone. But in general, I don't think females should be infantry. And I think that the combat arms should be logical. So for instance, artillerymen, people who have to lug 155 millimeter shells all day and have to load and fire artillery shells, the only female that is, in my opinion, allowed to be an artilleryman is Brock Lesnar's daughter. Have you guys seen Brock Lesnar's daughter? It's just a female Brock Lesnar. Look, this is the only female that is allowed to be an artilleryman. Oh, this female and or females with her exact build. They are the only people allowed to be combat arms. And if you're not built like this, you're not allowed in combat arms. I said what I said.
With it too,
So,
which have to
again,
do with tax
technically,
filing.
You're not being forced to do it. There will be severe consequences, but you technically don't have to sign up for the draft. No one's forcing you to. No one's holding a gun to your head and saying you must sign it.
Do you want the penalties for draft dodging?
Yes.
It can include federal felony.
Doobie says, if I was born looking like my wife, I'd 100% just gotten rich posting lewds to Twitter to attract desperate Sims to an OnlyFans where they can see slightly more lewd pics and form emotional attachments with my AI chatbot. All right, Doobie, we've known this. You are built different, okay? You are built different.
Like fines up to $250,000 and or up to 5 years in prison for failing to register. Other consequences like state level restrictions on things like college eligibility.
Okay, I don't give a fuck about this. I want to talk about abortion or feminism. I don't want to talk about the military anymore. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about this. Birth control plus STI. God damn it. I have to let it flow. I have to let it flow. God damn it.
Being voted and force is to be used in order to compel you to do these things. Nobody's compelling you to get pregnant. Nobody.
Nah, Doobie. So this is my fault because I'm behind in chat, but almost half not having children and you're still pushing for more abortion rights. Actually, so we did amend this through additional research. 85% of women will have children by the time that they are 50.
Nobody ever forces you to get pregnant. Well, unless it's SA, right? But the thing is like it does, but it's not, it doesn't account for the majority of cases, the overwhelming majority of cases. And if it were the case that you argued to me, but in the case that I am forced, right? What about then? I think that you would be able to negotiate that out with the other side. I think they would be willing to say in cases of SA, of incest, of things where force and compellence was used, they have said many times that they would be willing to negotiate that out if it stopped all of their abortions.
Right.
But the left, that's not really your argument because you want women to have that regardless.
Well, the issue with that is that getting someone charged with SA, I'm sure you would agree, is a tedious and can be a very long process. So how would that work? If, let's say,
and not just that, but difficult.
I was SA'd and I became pregnant and I showed up to Planned Parenthood in the state where, well, I guess they're closing the Planned Parenthoods. And I said, I need an abortion. I was SA'd. And they go, okay, we need the paperwork to prove that you were SA'd. I could potentially be looking at months, maybe even years of trying to prove that I was, SA'd. And in the meantime,
or if the requirement was a police report, you could just do a police report.
I would be pregnant and then I would reach a point where an abortion would not make any sense.
Well, let's even assume that you were able to negotiate this out in such a way where if you just made the claim that you were SA'd and named whoever the victimizer was, and you were in the process of that, then you could still get the shmishmortion. But if it was determined that you were lying or made it up, then there was some sort of criminal penalty towards you.
But what happens, do you think that every time a charge is dismissed, that means that the accused is innocent?
No.
Because I think a lot of the time people
But
do things
by
like
that same argument, then I have reason to doubt the SA standards, because do you think that if a person is convicted, that that means that they're guilty?
No.
Well, then if that's
There's
the case,
absolutely scenarios
then we
where
have,
people
so all we can do then
dismiss
is
trial.
go off of data, unless it's questionable data, right? What else can we do? Because the idea here of you just saying, well, they may be innocent. It's like, okay, well then that person who was convicted of SA may be not guilty, right? He may be innocent, and the person who's innocent may actually be guilty. It's hard to say. But in this case, if you went and you filed this, right? Let's just say somehow we got it to where you could actually move through the system very quickly in order to get this abortion if it was proven that it was due specifically to rape, right? Great, got that. But that's not really what you want, right? You want unfettered access to abortion by every woman, don't you?
Yeah.
So it has, so any of these arguments, the micro nuanced arguments, which are around rape and incest, don't really matter that much.
I thought you were coming in with a Bill Clinton. Don't feel me now. What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I can explain that. Okay, hold on. Victoria, can you come back real quick? I thought you were saying that if Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in the election, that was like him fucking her. Okay, hold on, guys. My wife has an even better joke than what I told you. So hold on, you can stay here. Well, actually, no, what? Never mind. It's fine. Thank you. Okay, I love it. So my wife made an even better joke. He was saying that if Bubba blew Donald Trump, then it's even worse because Bill Clinton, when he went to the ballot box, he had to choose between two people that he had sex with. Which I also enjoy. I think that's a decent insight. I married well. I married above my station. Eric Dobbs says it's frustrating how men are always represented by R-slurred cavemen or whatever podcast, both by the Wilson and the Chatters comment section, whatever is radfem propaganda. Yeah, it's incel and radfem propaganda for sure. McDevin being super generous today with an additional 5. People overestimate the strength issue when it comes to women. Guns and mechanized warfare equalize things immensely, not completely, obviously. Sure. But I just want to make the point that females and women should be able to serve in the military and in law enforcement. I don't think they should be combat arms. I also think that it's rich to have 1% or 2% of the male population or the population of the United States participate in first response or security industry, and yet constantly bitch and moan about the draft. We're not Vietnam, guys. 55,000 people have not died in the jungles of Vietnam recently. The global war on terror was an exclusively voluntary effort. And so to have this like, oh, men are required to do things that women aren't, but then 85% of women are willing to shoot 10-pound bowling balls out of their buttholes. Yeah, women are disproportionately carrying the burden of society. I will say it. We are responsible for providing financially. We are responsible for providing physical security. We are responsible for name a stereotypical masculine duty. We're responsible for killing bugs and taking out the trash. That's what we're responsible for. But women are shooting 10-pound bowling balls out of their butts, and that should be respected. So when does the spice start? We could fast forward to the spice if you want. McDevin for 2 says, also cards on the table, I have no military experience. It's all good. Most people don't. 98%, 99% of the population don't have military first response or security experience. So yeah. By the way, retail and restaurants sucked ass. Like I kind of make that a joke, but I would say while retail and restaurant industries are obviously not as hardcore as first response and law enforcement and military, if you worked retail or restaurant, you have my respect, because genuinely that is some of the most soul-crushing work for the least amount of pay possible. So I salute the retail and restaurant employees of America.
Because ultimately,
I do have a lot of concerns about that being, the process of having to prove this to get that exemption. I do genuinely, not out of self-interest, but out of,
Go over new Destiny stuff. What's new? All I saw him was harassing, or vice versa, Lauren De Laguna and him bumping into each other in Texas. That's the only thing that I saw. I also saw somebody said that chronologically Solo is confirmed to be the person that he was communicating with. So he wasn't even communicating with the girl. Somehow they figured that out. And then the communications were before the date, so it's up for dismissal. That's all I heard.
No fear for other women and girls.
Yeah, but assuming that was a possibility that we could expedite such a process quickly.
Yeah,
right?
I would still want abortion to be.
Yeah, so then who cares? You're arguing over something that's almost inconsequential in comparison to the overwhelming amount of abortions which are done, and they're done as a form of birth control.
I mean, they're not frequently done.
Yeah, they're frequently done. They're not rare.
No, they're not rare.
And they were always, we were promised they were going to be rare, but they're not rare.
Lifetime occurrence. Actually, Brian, could you Google what percentage of women have an abortion in their lifetimes? Because again, it is a form of birth.
I think it's over 40% of women have one.
Yeah, but are they having abortions every year, or are they having one?
I have it. According to well, that doesn't matter. An estimated 24.7% of women in the United States will have an abortion.
Sorry, how many?
Well, that doesn't matter. An estimated 24.7% of women in the United States will have an abortion by the time they're 45.
Okay.
And that translates to approximately 1 in 4 women.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not quite as high as I thought.
Yeah.
But 1 in 4 is still fucking high.
But it's I don't think that most people get repeat abortions. It's usually the cases of that, I think, are fairly rare. Brian, I don't know if you can fact check.
But why does frequency here matter?
Well,
it's still being used as a form of birth control. That's the truth.
If we're talking about a birth control, and we're thinking about, like birth control is typically something you have to use every time you engage in intercourse, or it is a some sort of hormonal thing that you are, using all the time. What I'm saying is that abortion, it's this idea of it as like comparable to the pill or to.
Okay, I don't hate Andrew Wilson. I do hate a lot of his argumentation, but if I hate somebody's argumentation, then that typically makes for good content.
A condom is.
Well, it's comparable only in the way that it's being used as a form of birth control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's preventing a birth, sure.
Yeah, so it's comparable to birth control because that's what birth control is doing, preventing a birth.
Yes, but it's a painful, traumatic process that most people do not want to undergo. It's like a last resort,
But
it happens.
yeah, and as a form of birth control. So that's, and the most common forms of abortion are forms of birth control. So the thing is like almost all women have an abortion, not because they're SA'd or because of incest or their life is at risk, but because they use it as a form of birth control.
Well, it's because the birth control that they were using failed, typically.
So now they use this other form of birth control.
Yes.
I think we're saying the exact same thing here.
Sure,
I don't feel
yeah.
like we're even speaking past each other. So the thing is like, that to me that's fucking insane, first of all.
Dude, okay. My wife is essentially a fascist. She comes in and demands that I tell jokes on stream. You know what she did last night that I thought was so fucking mean? So a panel ago, she did, what did she do? With Lactoid. She was like, ask Lactoid if he's vegetarian. And so I asked Lactoid, I'm like, hey, bro, are you vegetarian? And he's like, no, I love meat. And he's like, why? And I was like, oh, my wife was just curious. And you could tell he was like, fuck you. Like, you could tell that rubbed him wrong. And last night, Lactoid's grown out his beard a bit. And so last night I was on a panel with Lactoid, and she was like, hey, ask Lactoid if he's become a barista. He's got the barista vibe. She's so fucking mean, dude. And that's not even her on her A game. That's just her fucking around, Think about what she gets away with when I'm not repeating what she says on stream.
Like, why would you even want to advocate for a society in which female hormonal birth control is even a thing anyway? It fucks women up. Like, it fucks them all up.
I mean,
it makes them all mental and fucking crazy and fucking retarded, all kinds of shit.
I mean, it really depends on the woman. I do think that hormonal birth control, by and large, horrible. But there are women who, when I was 14,
Connor, is Andrew Wilson or AJW the better Andrew Wilson? Listen, man, AJW is like a conservatarian, I would say. And so we actually should agree on a lot. I think he just gets like a little race realisty, and it frustrates me. I want to do what is racist or sexist. That actually sounds fun. And then I think I'm going to start fast forwarding to just the spicy parts for the sake of content flow. What is racist or sexist sounds good. Statistics on assault, convincing them, something, perversions in other cultures. The start of America. Is the term disparaging? Colonizers? That's interesting. Andrew's education, defending Crowder. Is Andrew a hypocrite? I have to believe that that's probably where the spicy call-in happens.
Oh, at least in their lifetimes, it does seem like whites are disproportionately attacked by black men. That white men are disproportionately attacked.
The stats on
and
that.
we can pull them up.
But again,
let's just look at interracial dynamics of violence, black on white versus white on black.
I think depending on where you are, sure.
I need to grab some water, so I'll be right back. But I was gonna say something and I totally spaced on it. So I'll just chill. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I parasocially love you. Thank you for hanging out.
If you're in an area
it's not where you are. It's everywhere.
It's
everywhere.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
It's everywhere.
I used to walk through the Tenderloin in San Francisco at night by myself. That is a heavily black area. And I was The worst thing that ever happened was a guy tried to sell me weed. That was the worst thing that happened. And it was okay. And I looked again, like,
But if you're informing, if a young woman is walking down the street and she's never been assaulted by young men before ever, and she's walking by a group of young, rowdy looking men, right? And she just knows from hearing stories and from her observations, and, you know, statistics and things like this, that she could be in some trouble there, and she crosses the street. Would you say that that's sexist?
I would say technically, yes, that is sexism, but I think that
So she does need to keep, in order to not be a sexist, she needs to keep walking through that crowd. You would advise her to do that?
I think that you can make some assumptions.
Oh.
Yeah. Would it tech?
Oh my God. My wife once came into the room while I was arguing with Prime and leaned over to kiss me. When I kissed her, she force chewed up chicken into my mouth with her tongue and ran out of the room giggling that dinner was ready. I nearly threw up. Oh. Damn, bro. That's almost grounds for divorce. That is crazy. I've had somebody do that with gum, not chicken. What the hell? That is brutal. Mick Devin with another 2 says Lauren Southern dropped a new video. Okay, do you guys want to do that? I'll scroll to the bottom. Okay, do you guys want to do that? Because basically what I'm vibing on, let me follow up. Let me skip to is Andrew a hypocrite? Let's take a look at that. Let's go here. Let's get the spice, and then we'll check out Lauren Southern new video.
But you can't figure out how it's disparaging.
It's disparaging because it goes against the worldview that you espouse.
What part of me marrying a woman who was divorced goes against my worldview?
You say gnarly things about promiscuous women and that they're disgusting.
That's not promiscuity.
You say 3 baby daddies? Yes, that's promiscuity.
Wait a second. Help me out here. How many times have you had sex?
I couldn't count.
How many different partners have you had?
Oh, it depends on what you would consider sex.
Men.
Men?
Yeah. How many men have you fucked, Chuck?
Certainly under 10.
Yeah, and she has 3 long-term relationships, and I'm one of them. Okay, Chuck, can you tell me which one of you are promiscuous?
Through having had children with them, forever tied to her. That's a much stronger bond than a hookup.
Okay, but help me out. You fuck way more women than my wife, and she's the promiscuous one?
You wouldn't consider what I do sex, would you?
You fuck men. You said you fucked 10 men, Chuck.
I said under 10. You would not consider the sex that I've had with women to be sex. Is that what you said?
Damn, this kind of went off the rails.
No, I'm talking about men.
But then why'd you bring up women?
I didn't try to. I was talking about men.
Okay.
So yeah, Chuck, you fucked way more.
None of them got me pregnant.
Well, who cares if they did? You would just abort the kid.
I mean, yeah, but
because you're just a sick fuck.
I'm not a sick fuck.
You're a sick fuck.
I think it's crueler. I think it is crueler to have children when you are unprepared and bring them into an unsafe household. I think that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll make sure to let my stepkids know that they shouldn't have been brought in the world because Chuck wishes that her mom killed them. Because then she couldn't say he had 3 baby daddies, could she?
Go ahead and tell them.
I'll go ahead and tell them, Chuck.
Tell them.
I'll let them know, Chuck.
But it's every time you talk about how older women are undesirable, women with past are undesirable.
That's not what I say.
And then you are dating a woman. You are married to a woman. You are in love with a woman.
Can you tell me what my position is?
I've seen your tweets.
What's my position?
I've seen the way that you.
Zena says, couple pranks be like, I gave you MRSA.
Speak to sex
Can you
workers.
tell me what was my wife a sex worker?
No.
No.
She has 3 baby daddies.
Okay, so not a sex worker? Not a sex worker?
No, not a sex worker.
Okay, great. Chuck.
But the way you talk to promiscuous women.
So she had 3 long-term relationships and did what she was supposed to do in them when she's married, which is have children.
Yeah, and how did that turn out for her?
It turned out great. She ended up with me.
She got half her tongue ripped out. That's what you said.
But she's been with me for almost fucking 18 years? What's your longest term relationship, Chuck?
3 years, but I'm in my
3 years. 3 years and 10 guys. Boy, you got a way to go, Chuck.
I said under 10, but I'm also in my 20s, and you're in your 40s.
I married her when I was in my 20s. With her. What do you mean?
She was in her 30s when you married her then.
Was she?
She's 5 years older.
No, she's not 5 years. She's 3 years older, you idiot.
Oh, my bad.
Damn. So listen, man, all I'm going to say is I have no idea how this got so spicy so fast. And obviously, we're not going to rewind in order to take a look at it. Now, I am of two minds. I am of the mind of, oh, Andrew Wilson's mad. He's pressed. He's pressed. He's pressed. But also, if you start talking shit about my family, I'm going to get pissed off too. Now, I don't really think there's actually that much to talk shit about my family on. So realistically, if you're like, you got your wife, you have an age gap with your wife. My age gap is not that bad. So I'd be like, yeah. And it's like, oh, you had kids with your wife. I'd be like, yeah. So like, there's actually not really that I feel like you could attack me on my life on that. Or hey, you were a piece of shit when you were younger. I think I would just be like, yeah. So I wouldn't be that pressed. So I think the reason why Andrew Wilson is pressed is because obviously he knows that people are going to look at Rachel having had other baby daddies is, like what we would, if she was black, we would call them baby daddies, right? But if you're a serial monogamist, like I think they say Rachel is, where she dated a guy, they got married, they had a kid or two or whatever, and then through the relationship being bad, they got divorced. Then she dated another guy and they fell in love and they got married and they had a kid and then they got divorced. Okay. And then she ended up with Andrew and then they were together for almost 20 years, 18 years, and they have one or two kids together. Well, that's serial monogamy. She's been with 3 dudes. Whereas I think what is it? Something Charles? I know he's calling her Chuck because it's trying to be like insulting and calling her a masculine name and all that kind of stuff. But if whatever her name is, Charles, has slept with, I don't know, 6, 7 dudes, maybe she's bi, maybe she's gay, and then she's also hooked up with like dozens of women and her longest relationship is 3 years. I do think it's kind of wild to call a woman with quote unquote 3 bodies promiscuous. I understand why there's like a cultural connotation with the baby mama thing, but I could, if somebody was attacking my wife like that, I might get a little pissed. I'll admit that.
My information was wrong then.
Yeah, because you got it from a dumb whore, didn't you?
Which dumb whore?
Tree of Logic. You got it from a stupid whore, and that's why your information's bad. What else?
Is Tree of Logic the name of someone?
Yeah, what else do you think? What else do you think, Chuck? Do I have an illegitimate black child too?
No.
That wasn't part of your information?
No.
Oh, what else was part of your information? How much older is my wife than me?
5 years.
Oh, okay. Well, how old is she then?
She's 43 if you said it was 3 years.
Wait, how old am I, Chuck?
40.
I'm 41.
Oh, okay. Well, she still has 3 baby daddies, which you confirmed.
So you were wrong about that, right? You were wrong about that?
Does she not have 3 baby daddies?
Yeah, no, she didn't have 3 baby daddies. Men you're married to aren't baby daddies.
A baby daddy is a man that.
No, your disparagement there, as fun as it is, right? Remember, she's not here to defend herself either, because she'd knock you the fuck out probably. But
she would hit me?
Yeah, oh yeah. If you personally attacked her, I'm sure she would.
Well, I wouldn't have personally attacked her. So I might have gently suggested that.
Gently
telling
suggested
women to submit to their husbands and blah 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 is kind of
that created great outcomes for her, Chuck.
Is this a great outcome?
It sure seems to be for her.
Because I mean, being with you and I think dedicating your life to being a content creator that just like debates and that's the extent of your Christian goodness, I wouldn't consider that the high living.
Wait, is that the
consider that
Chuck?
virtuous.
Is that the extent of my Christian goodness?
Probably.
Tell me what I do.
This is what you do.
Tell me what I do with all that money I make, Chuck.
I don't know.
But I thought you just told me what the extent of my Christian goodness was.
The impact that you leave on the world, whether you donate to charities
So
or
it
not,
justifies.
which I strongly doubt that you do.
You strongly doubt that?
What you do with your worldview is you use it to feed your ego. What you do with your career.
My ego?
Yes, your ego.
My ego.
Your ego.
So tell me, Chuck, can you help me out here?
And I know that this is the thing about pride too, because the first time we debated, you said to me, you just humiliated yourself in front of all of these people. And when I said, I've been on bigger platforms, you said, no, you haven't.
What bigger platform were you on?
Well, I was interviewed by CNN once.
No. So you weren't on a big platform,
also
Chuck.
CubeBot,
So I was right.
Shush.
So I was right, Chuck. I was right.
CubeBot in 2024.
Yeah.
had
CubeBot.
a viewer average of about 10,000, and I went on her show with Morgue Pie, and I was subject to a lot more people and greater, scarier things.
Oh.
So I guess now technically Brian's platform is the largest platform I've been on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. But before that, it was mine.
That's awesome.
No, it was Cupid.
Oh, it was Cupid.
Yeah.
And how many people were watching Cupid at that time? If we go pull that.
Dude, but this is proving the point that she's making, which is it's like a pride thing. Like I understand that he's in the weeds, so he's just throwing elbows. And trust me, I'm the kind of guy to get pissed and see red and just follow the tangents wherever they go. But what I'm trying to do, failingly, but I'm trying to track like the overarching thread of the conversation rather than getting down into argumentative grit. And right now, instead of her point was that what you do is arguably not Christian because you're just basically bullying whores on the internet all day, which God would say, don't have sex with the whores, but love the whores. You know, try to remind the whores of their dad so they feel shame and stop being whores, but don't have sex with them. That's what Jesus would say. Now, Andrew Wilson takes a different tact, which is we should just bully whores on the internet until they feel bad, so we shame whores. And I say whores, digital prostitutes, e-thoughts, Instagram women, whatever you want to call them. Shame them. That way, hopefully, normal women who watch this content, if there are any, don't engage in these socially bad behaviors. And then ideally, the men would recognize that these women are vapid, shallow, thoughtless, stupid, and effectively digital prostitutes. And then therefore, hopefully they won't engage with them. Now, obviously, this has the opposite effect. Whatever podcast has been accused of actually enhancing the careers of digital prostitutes. So bullying whores on the internet has actually had the opposite effect of the intended claimed effect. Now, I don't know what led this off to Charlie being a rude asshole and calling Rachel Wilson, you know, oh, aren't you guys hypocritical because you're promiscuous and she's got 3 baby daddies and this, that. But it does seem like Andrew is pissed, and it does seem like he's chasing the small details rather than keeping the overarching thing. Honestly, I would love to hear about his charitable shit. If he was genuinely, because he offered Wick $10,000 to do a boxing match with Andrew Wilson. And then I was like, I'll train Wick 100%. I would fly up to Pennsylvania in order to train Wick for a boxing match with Andrew Wilson. And then he backed out of the deal. So what are you doing with your money that's like charitable? Like I would be interested in that.
That stream. We'll find the numbers.
When we were debating, I'm not referring to her numbers at that time. I was referring to her viewer average in 2024 when I went on her dating show with Morg Pilot.
But all you're doing is you're just proving that it is a pride thing.
I see.
10K viewers.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
That is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
And that is far more immortalized than this will be.
So help me out with this, though. I just want to make sure that I get all this right. So ultimately, you think that it's okay to try to use these disparaging things against my wife who's not here to defend herself. Why? What did she do to you, Chuck?
I'm trying to convince you of my worldview.
Yeah, but what did she do to you, Chuck?
I mean, I think that being married to you is
It's enough to do whatever evil you want to her, isn't it, Chuck?
was what I said evil or wrong? Was it inaccurate what I said? Was it inaccurate what I said? Was it inaccurate?
You remember how early?
It's a lie.
Yeah, but was it? What are you trying to use it as disparaging, like you do with colonizer?
Hypocrisy.
Where's the hypocrisy?
Because of the worldviews that you espouse.
Tell me what I espouse, which is hypocritical.
You spend your time convincing men that older women are undesirable, that women with past are undesirable.
You're lying.
I have scrolled through your freaking tweets.
Chuck,
I've seen this.
Chuck,
I've seen what you said. You have built your.
Give me the position, Chuck. Give me the position I have. The position you think I have, which is hypocritical.
Older women are undesirable. An 18-year-old will always be more desirable than a
total fucking lies, Chuck. So here's my actual position.
That was actually one of the first.
I guarantee you'll never find the tweet. And when we're done here, I'll send you $1,000 per tweet that I'm wrong about. Promise. Okay. So here we go. You ready? My actual position: as women get older, they're generally less desirable than when they were younger. Anything else, Chuck? Am I wrong?
But do you think?
Hang on, Chuck. Am I wrong? Chuck, am I wrong though, Chuck?
Depends on who you ask.
I'm asking you.
I like older women.
I'm asking you, Chuck, in general.
And my mom and all of her heterosexual
yeah, Chuck, I know, but in general,
yeah,
but Chuck, in general, is it not the case that in general, as women get older, they become less desirable to men than younger women? In general.
Not now, I don't think so. I think there's an age cap.
So if I were to show you stats of when men respond and say that they would prefer younger women over older women, they're lying?
Maybe.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know. You can never trust statistics or where they're from. You can never trust.
Never said that either.
Blah, blah,
never said that either. I said that every study needs to be vetted. But okay. So anyway, what's the next position that I espouse, which I probably don't? That makes me a hypocrite.
So I want to say that as an outsider looking in, what your platform looks like is it's teaching young.
Yeah, I don't care about that. How am I a hypocrite? What am I saying that's
You're a
hypocritical?
hypocrite because you are married to a woman that the men that you are influencing to feel these things, you are married to someone that they would find completely unacceptable. Because
I don't think you
talk to
know
these
my
red pill men.
audience.
I know their audience.
I don't have a red pill audience.
You do, dude.
I don't. I'm not a red pillar.
Down all
Okay. So I don't know and I don't care. So for instance, we took a look at the metrics. The main, if you look at Andrew Wilson's career, if you at least go off of Social Blade, it looks like what happens was he built a platform over the course of 2 years. And I think his peak month before he went on the Whatever podcast and before he went on to Rollo Tomasi's show was his peak month was 250,000 views on post-recorded views. And while I definitely respect the grind, that was kind of, metrically, it's not the highest, I suppose, is just the most tactful way to say it. He went on to Whatever podcasting, went on to Rollo Tomasi, and that gave him like a pretty big bump. He got like 1 million views the next, like within like a matter of weeks of a period on Whatever podcast, he got 1 million views on his own show. And then since then, he's been cooking. And so the argument is he built a platform, but then he was platformed by larger platforms. And then as a result, he's been able to steamroll that into a bigger thing. Now, I think that Andrew Wilson, I would probably have to talk to him about it, but I think he would probably argue, despite bullying whores, which is absolutely red meat for a red pill audience, despite, actually, I can just end it right there. Despite the fact that he goes onto red pill platforms in order to fight about like red pill stuff, the reason why he probably does not believe himself to be a red pillar is because he's not about MGTOW. He's not about men going their own way. He's also a self-described Christian nationalist, and Christianity emphasizes like male duty within family, where you have to, or you should ideally, find your partner, be loyal to your partner, be monogamous, have children, and treat your partner as if they were a part of your body. And so if Andrew Wilson truly believes that he is an embodiment of Christian virtue, he probably believes that to a certain degree. And so he would differentiate Christian nationalism, his brand of Christian nationalism, separate from red pill ideology, which effectively says, go your own way and do your own thing. You don't need women. That's like the MGTOW movement. Or it would say, women are a bunch of whores. You should just use them for fun. And you shouldn't, like, you should share a minimum amount of your material resources with women in order to get sexual access. But you should never marry a woman, and you should never share more than you need to. And those worldviews would diverge pretty drastically. So I understand from like Charlie's perspective, they're probably quite parallel because he participates in red pill spaces, but I think that's the philosophical differentiation that Andrew is trying to point out.
all of my
I'm
socials
literally
locked
not
down
a
for
red
week after
pillar.
this because every time after I debate you, what I have is a bunch of dudes hopping in my comments calling me a stupid whore, a bitch, and a slut.
What does that have to do with me?
That's your audience.
No, my
That's your
audience are
man.
Christian nationalists. That's my audience.
Yeah, and they're assholes.
Maybe, but
They're
that
bad
doesn't make
people.
me a
They're not
hypocrite.
Christians.
What things do I advocate for that are hypocritical to how I live my personal life? What? What, Chuck?
You're dating a promiscuous woman.
How is that
You are dating
promiscuous?
a woman who has 3 baby daddies.
I'm not dating anybody. I'm married. And how is
Married.
it promiscuous? She had 3 long-term relationships and was married.
Children with 3 different men. It's not
How
a
is that
problem to me.
promiscuous? So
It's
if
not a problem to
so
me,
if
but
her
it's
husband
something
died
that-
in war and she got remarried, me as a Christian, that's promiscuous?
It's different.
My wife just made me pigs in a blanket with honey mustard.
How? How's that different than
death.
he leaves her?
It's death.
How's that different
It's
than
not
he leaves
violating
her?
The great sanctity of a Christian man.
But Chuck, I've never advocated that, ever. So how could I be a hypocrite?
Dude, and everything you
When?
say and do, you fucking advocate for this
Here,
shit. You
I'm going to start
advocate
pulling
for
out.
this shit.
I'll tell you what. I'll start pulling out cash.
I don't want you
Pull
to
up the
money,
tweet. Pull up the tweet that shows me a hypocrite to my worldview. I'll keep pulling out cash until you
Man.
can.
Keep pulling it out.
Okay, how much do you want?
I'm not playing your game.
You're not going because you don't have shit.
No, because I'm not going to sit here and dig through your fucking tweets.
Because there's nothing there that would make me a hypocrite to my view. Do you
Yes,
think?
dude, your platform is literally two normal people reads as insane, dude.
That has nothing to do with the claim I'm a hypocrite, Chuck. Chuck,
yes, dude.
show me how I'm a hypocrite, Chuck, for my view.
You spend your time shitting on women.
I don't.
That is all you do.
Hardly.
You discourage.
But even if I did, even
I mean, let's be real, he used to.
if all I did was shit on women, how am I a hypocrite?
Because you are married to a woman with 3 baby daddies.
And do I ever make a prescription that that's immoral or wrong?
I think you made up rules for yourself that it's okay to fit your worldview.
Bro, when have I ever advocated that you can't be a stepdad?
So proud. I think you would be so proud of your chaste Christian wife.
Are you ever going to show me how I espouse views, which I don't believe ever? What do I actually say?
Watched the shit that you make. You can just watch your clips and see the things that you say.
Chuck, tell me my position that makes me a hypocrite, please.
I just told you. I've told you.
What? What?
I've told you.
What is it?
Times.
What?
I just told you.
You
several
didn't.
Times. Do you not have fucking ears, dude?
What did you just tell me? What?
You are married to a woman that would be considered by the men that you proselytize
Me,
to,
Chuck.
that they are.
Me, Chuck. What do I advocate for that makes me a hypocrite, Chuck? What?
To look
The money thing is additional evidence of the pride thing that Charlie made as an argument before.
for chaste young women.
That's not even my.
Women who are not stained. You spend all your time shitting all over sex workers.
Yeah,
All the
yes,
time.
good.
And if I recall correctly, you have said that there is like a girl who's at an OnlyFans or done sex work is undateable, unlovable, unmarriageable.
No, I've never said any of those things.
I swear to God, I've heard it.
No, Chuck, you hear what you want to hear. So here's my actual position, and I'll tell you. So my actual position on step parenting is the same position that I would have on sex work. I'm really glad that you stopped being a sex worker and welcome to Christianity.
Wait. Now, I think that he's going to say the reason why he's not a hypocrite in this thing is Kaya or whatever that girl's name is, Nala. Nala. I think that would be the argument to bring up, which is, oh, I'm happy you're done with sex work. Welcome to Christianity. But I think that his counter argument would be that Nala is grifting. So I think you could bring up Nala in this argument, but he would have a counter argument ready.
That's not going to guarantee you a great husband, though, because your past walks with you, unfortunately. And when it comes to step parenting, right, it is true that generally people get bad outcomes when it comes to dating and marrying single moms, especially kids. But that doesn't mean all of them are bad. That's what I've always advocated, Chuck. How come you didn't know that?
Know that about you?
Yeah. How come you didn't know that? That's what I advocate.
There you go. So Jing says he did advise against marrying divorced women with children and claimed that it worked out for him as an outlier.
Anything that you say.
It's because you selectively only want to hear what you want to hear, and you only did that to do rage bait because you don't know any of my positions. You never took the time to listen, ever.
Why would I listen? It's all slop.
Yeah. How could it be slop? You don't even know what it is.
I also don't think that these are your positions. I genuinely don't. Again, I think that you are creating.
Brian, haven't I made those positions 1,000 times on the show? Those same positions?
If I can just really quick, you've said Andrea said certain things. Were they whatever podcast appearance? Hello?
All right. For the cringe, I'm going to fast forward to Rachel calling in.
Rachel?
Can you hear me?
Yes. I don't know why Discord wasn't working, so we're just going to do it via the phone. Do you want to say anything?
Okay. Yeah. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I guess I'm just going to ask her the same question kind of that Andrew asked her, which is, I mean, she said all this stuff about me that she got completely wrong, but what is it that you think Andrew or I are doing that is wrong or hypocritical?
I would say that Christ, okay, these people claim to be Christian nationalists. They claim to be devout. They claim to, prioritize their faith, all that kind of stuff. What I would say is that oftentimes in Christianity, the advocacy is you be the most Christ-like that you possibly can be. And the way that Christ reached out to the lepers and the tax collectors and the poor and the destitute and the whores and all that kind of stuff He didn't bully them. What he did is he went to them, he shared meals with them, he proselytized to them, he tried to teach them morality, he tried to preach them like mercy and forgiveness, effectively saying like, you're on the wrong path, but if you chose the right path, you could redeem yourself and become a godly, righteous, moral person. That's the way that Christ kind of lived his life. Now, what Andrew and I would argue some Christian nationalists do is they like to use the identity of Christianity, but then they exclusively like to emphasize the times that Jesus was fire and brimstone, where Jesus was like talking shit and saying, if you don't follow me, you're going to hell. Or when he whipped the tax collectors, they love to bring up when he went into the church and he saw a bunch of money changers setting up merchant stores outside a church. And then he got so enraged, he like grabbed a whip and started beating the shit out of people and flipping tables. And so, they like to bring that stuff up. And so argumentatively, what that would mean is they're not totally liars or hypocrites, but I would say that they're not actually carrying forward the spirit of Jesus when it specifically comes to like ministering to the downtrodden and the sinful. Now, we can disagree on that and we can quibble on that. But I'll say that that is like, in my opinion, probably the strongest criticism of them. But if they did what I wanted them to do as far as like ministering to the sinful, they probably would have nowhere near the reach that they do in pop culture and alt media. And so as a result, they would say, well, our fire and brimstone shit works more than your pussy version of Jesus Christ. That's what I think their counter argument would be.
I do feel that with your guys' platforms, what you do is, Rachel, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not familiar with your platform. I'm only familiar with your husband's.
You're only familiar with talking shit about her when she's not here.
Well, hey, man, I was trying to prove my point.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, how does what you said about me prove your point? Like, again, did somebody tell you that Andrew like hates on single moms and like shits on them, and so you thought that because he's married to me and I had kids before I married him that like he's a bad Christian? Like, I don't understand where you're coming from with this. What did he do wrong, and what did I do wrong?
So the basis of Andrew's platform.
Yes, Rachel's the wife. It's Rachel Wilson. She also does her own podcast. She also does her own debates.
Is essentially to make women look stupid and humiliate them.
Yeah, which is not particularly Christian, but that's okay.
You're doing a perfectly good job of that all by yourself. He doesn't even need to help. But go on.
All right.
Erroneous.
Sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. I lost my train of thought.
Go ahead. Tell the whole world why we're bad.
The whole world?
Bad, and why am I bad?
You were saying that Andrew's whole purpose is to make women look dumb and stupid.
But that's how his thing works, is he goes on debate shows. A lot of the time it's young women, people with no formal debate experience, such as myself, to mock them, make them look stupid, clip farm, and then gain money and notoriety this way. He doesn't engage in real thoughtful debate. I've seen people walk off from debating him because
we got to do one thing at a time. One thing at a time. You can't just shotgun 500 things. So
okay.
Did you not have agency? Did you not have agency when you accepted this debate with Andrew?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Then what did he do wrong? Do you want him to treat you like, because you're a feminist, so do you want him to only debate men? Because if he did that, you'd say, well, he's a misogynist. He won't even debate women because he doesn't take them seriously enough or whatever. Like, you guys make your...
That doesn't feel like the point. It's not whether or not you can debate women. It's whether or not you can debate women from a place of like sincere empathy and care, where, like Grug the Destroyer or that other fat chick. There was some like obese woman who was on whatever podcast, and they were asking the women to rate themselves, and she said like, oh, like I'm a 6 or a 7 out of 10, and Andrew Wilson's like and you can see the woman being like put off by it, and she's like, what the hell? And then he's like, oh, sorry, was I not muted? And it was pretty clear that he wasn't muted. There is 0% shit that's Christian about that. Now, part of Christianity is that you're not going to be perfect all the time, but I very much doubt that he would back off of that position. He would just say, oh, yeah, well, she has like an inflated sense of self. That inflated sense of self has social harm for herself and for society. So me taking her down a peg is actually, from a utilitarian perspective, going to help out society. Therefore, yeah, fuck her. I laughed at her. Who cares? Like, I don't think he would suddenly be like, you know what? You're right. Christ wouldn't laugh at fat people. Like, I doubt he would ever make that concession. Anonymous for 5 says, to me, being Christ-like means being the change you want to see in the world. Bitching from the sidelines does nothing. Roll your sleeves up and help. Right.
Self looks stupid. Andrew can't make you look stupid if you're not. And I would go on here and I would make you look 10 times stupider because you're really, really uninformed, but really, really confident about everything you say. You do not sound like a person with a college education.
Okay, but she... Rachel Wilson made a very confident but not correct assertion the one time that we covered her content that was so obviously incorrect that it befuddled me. So I don't like that line of attack. I'll put it that way.
My homeschooled 13-year-old can explain per capita, okay? You are not a very smart person. You're the one who put yourself in this position. And since you lost and you got humiliated, you thought the thing to do would be attack me. And okay, so let's go there. Where did you get the idea that I'm promiscuous?
Well, that you're promiscuous? Sorry, you just also said a bunch of shit that I was trying to keep track of.
Yeah, you said that I'm promiscuous. So what promiscuous means, I've slept with a lot of people, right?
I would say that I think that having children with multiple men is, I think that is more significant than.
Okay, well, I think it would be if, and I know why people assume this. I do understand why people assume it. They're just wrong in their assumptions. It would be wrong if I had been sleeping with lots of people, if I had been carelessly getting pregnant with random people. That's not the case. I've spent my entire adult life.
Doobie says, treat these women with empathy and care, but call the men dumbasses, evil, etc. We're back to the long line, except for people need to be called out directly. I'm not. I believe in a healthy chunk of the moral messaging of Christ, but I myself am not a Christian. And I do think that you need a certain amount of, let's call it Old Testament morality to mix in with the New Testament. But Christian forwards Christ, right? Like Christ is the most important part of the Bible. So especially the way that I was taught when I was brought up is like, yeah, the Old Testament is a bunch of good stories and you should pay attention to the Old Testament, this, that, the other. But the primacy of Christ is undisputed. Like as a Christian, anything that Christ said, anything that Christ did, that supersedes anything else in the Bible because that is God made flesh. So once again, so like if you want to be eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, you kind of have to check out the Old Testament. If you want to be turn the other cheek, you have to check out Jesus Christ. If you're a Christian, meaning that you believe Christ is God made flesh and you should be as close to Christ as possible, then that's not something that I claim. I actually think Christ was actually just like a super philosophical carpenter, chiropractor bro who got a lot of shit right through like moral observation. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a heretic in that one.
Only in 3 long-term committed relationships, one of which is a, almost 20-year relationship with Andrew. Now we're like 18 years in. I've been married since 2012. Prior to that, I was married for 4 years, as Andrew had to unfortunately explain. That ended not even because I left, but because he beat the crap out of me and was being pursued by the law and left the state, and so it was like abandonment. The first one was my high school boyfriend, who I knew my whole life, who I was with for 5 years. He had 2 children. He had his own personal problems, and that did not work out. So I understand why people make the assumption, but the truth is I'm not promiscuous. I have an extremely low body count. I've never had one-night stands. I've never cheated on anyone. I've never just carelessly or casually had sex ever. So I've only ever...
Doobie, you so confidently argue things that like are just wrong. Christ, turn the other cheek verse. $38. You're saying Christ was a pacifist? You have heard it said that eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile with them, go 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I tell you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise upon the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. I mean, I could probably read these other ones too about adultery and murder and all this kind of shit. But like, yeah, dude, it's quite clear the typical cultural Christian thing. No, this isn't out of context. This is one of the most important verses. Sorry about that. I'm back. That was the internet. It conked out randomly. But anyways, if you're going to argue that the Sermon on the Mount is not like Jesus's best hits, then I think you're great. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. All right. Anyways, I'm going to play this until Rachel.
But then with men that I, at least at the time, felt certain I was going to be with forever and have a family with.
Maybe you should
I
have.
did get nerfed on the first two. I did get nerfed on the first two, I will admit. But
Charlie, I did
know.
wonder, hang on, Rachel, I did wonder one thing. If she had slept with 3 men but had aborted all of the children, would she still be promiscuous?
She would have lived her life. It would have been better for her.
If she had only slept with 3 men but aborted her children, hang on, Rachel, stop for a second. Would it be the case? Was that too abusive? Shut up, Rachel. Was that too abusive, Charlie? So Charlie, tell me, if she had aborted her children with those 3 relationships, would she be less promiscuous or not?
I think that, frankly, in my opinion, her life would have been better spent.
Would she be less promiscuous, Charlie?
Yes.
Yeah, she'd be less promiscuous.
Yeah.
These fucking people. Rachel, you should have.
I'm talking about optics.
Rachel, you should have killed. You
optics.
should have killed our kids, Rachel.
Maybe she should have.
No, I wouldn't have been. Wait, so it's less promiscuous if I kill the children?
I mean, you're not killing.
Hubie says, woe to you, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those who are enter. How is saying that the religious leaders of Judaism at the time will not enter the kingdom of heaven for being overly judgmental pricks? How does that help your argument?
Children, you're having an abortion.
Did you just say to me that my life would be better if I had aborted my children?
Said your life would be better if you had aborted your children. Yes.
I mean, if I were in your shoes, I would have had a better time doing that.
Wow. Well,
Connor, do you tell your wife to shut up? Sometimes it does not go well. Does not go well.
I regret to inform you that I love all of my children. I would never unalive them. I would never wish that they weren't born, even if there was some mild inconvenience to me along the way, or maybe I had to do a little work to raise them. I love my children. I would never wish that they had not been born, and I'm certain my life would not have been better without them.
Would you deny that under patriarchy you are seen as like I hate to use this phrase, but as a damaged woman on account of having had children with multiple men? Would you deny that that is unfortunately the common perspective?
I actually think it's people like you who think that about me. Andrew is a patriarch. He is a patriarchist. As you said, he's the one out here representing the patriarchy, and he looked at my situation and said, she is worth marrying, because if I had been divorced because I was a bitch, or because I was not submissive, or because I was a cheater, or because I was mentally unstable, any of the normal reasons that you do have a woman who's got kids from two guys, the usual reasons. I happen to be an outlier for the reasons why I was in that situation. And despite the fact that, and I've said this before, I thought Andrew was way too good for me. I tried to break up with him multiple times because I thought he's got a great life with no baggage. Why would he, he could pick anybody. He should pick someone else other than me. That was my opinion. He was the one who looked at me and said, no, I really think you're great wife material, great mom material. I know that based on the fact that you're already a great mom. Yeah, your
This is almost sweet.
situation isn't the best, but all things considered, it's a deal I'm willing to take. Because he thought I was that awesome. Isn't that cool? What a good guy. And he was a great stepdad. And he loves all the kids. He never treated the older ones like they were any different. There was never any drama with him, talking bad about their dad or anything. He was a great guy. He's a great guy. And it turns out that you're the one who thinks I should have killed my kids. You would rather party and have fun and get bullshit degrees than produce human beings who are going to go off and create the future.
Hell yeah, I would.
It turns out that you are the hateful, selfish, awful one
I
who's
see.
willing to lie about people, say things that aren't true when you don't know what the truth. You've just defamed multiple people.
I think Charlie's trying to Giga Chat or Giga Stacy it, but realistically, I don't think it's a good thing to Giga Chat or Giga Stacy. Yeah. Anyways, I'm good on it. What I would say from this argumentation, from this conversation between Charlie and Mr. Wilson, I'll go ahead and pull up the drawing that we did do, because there was something actually almost worth contemplating here, which is effectively that leftist Charlie, or whatever her name is, was arguing that maximizing freedom of choice is a good thing. And then Andrew Wilson brought up COVID-19 as an example of where liberal or left-wing people were willing to shut down people's choices. But Charlie rationally, and I think logically, said, okay, well, your freedom kind of ends on where you start hurting other people. And we do have 1.1 million excess deaths during COVID to point to, as COVID-19 actually being kind of a dangerous thing for certain demographics. So she was correct in that regard. And then they kind of got into militarism, and whether or not men serving in the military in the draft disproportionately means that men should have a better stake in society, and if women should be reduced in voting, I suppose, because women who don't serve the military, they volunteer other people to die. But I would argue, and I think it's a decent argument, that pregnancy is so intense, and 85% of women, at least with current stats, participates in having children. That is such a hardcore thing, whereas only 1 to 2% of the male population participate in first response or the military. And so I actually think that it's women who are taking on disproportionate physical risk in order to propagate our species. Now, of course, you have deaths of despair, suicide, military service, first response, kind of being viewed as a pay pig. I think that's the way that the taxation of the United States of America, and that's kind of the way that men are treated, is they're treated as piggy banks for society to function. I do think that that sucks to a degree, but like I said earlier, 100 times out of 100, if I was dead and given the opportunity to reincarnate, I would reincarnate as a male over a female. So yeah, although Doobie did say that he would reincarnate as a hot female. Do I have kids? Wait, do you have kick? No, not yet. I have kids. I do not have kick.